Okay. It's a game on Airfield in the T-54 first prototype. It's the Tier 8 Russian medium premium tank that will be coming out in server patch 9.7. It is a tank that I've been waiting for a very long time, since I've wanted to have a higher tier Russian medium to do crew training. And the tank that is probably most analogous to is the currently existing T-44. It's slightly up-armored, slightly down-gunned. The drawback to having the extra armor, of course, is that it's slightly slower. In terms of traveling on a straight line, like a lot of the Russian tanks, if you're on even ground, and particularly if you're on good terrain, it actually reaches the top speed relatively quickly. But you'll notice the extra armor that weighs down your tank when you're trying to drive up a hill or turn your tank in slightly worse terrain. It becomes more noticeable. But overall, the mobility is not that limited. It's certainly just slightly slower than what I remember from the T-44. The nice thing about the armor is that, especially frontally, it's got 120mm sloped armor. The upper glacis is sloped at 60 degrees, the lower glacis is sloped at 45 degrees. Now what this means is that effectively on even ground for another tank shooting you, the frontal effective armor is 200 mils. And that's enough, 200 millimeters. So that's enough to fairly reliably stop 175 pen guns, which is the majority of tier 8 guns, other than heavy guns. It can bounce higher shells, but it becomes a little bit more sketchy as you go up, depending on the distance that you are and the types of shells that they're using, of course. The turret armor is 180. The nice thing about the turret is that it's relatively small. You'll notice that the face of the turret is mostly covered by the gun mantlet, and then there's no wide cheeks on this. It just immediately goes into a sloped turret, which makes the front of this actually pretty nicely shielded. There are small hatches on the top, but overall it's a very, very low profile. It is as vulnerable as any other tank for the most part. In the side armor, it's slightly higher than what you would have in a medium class of the tier, but it's still not going to stop most guns from the tier 8 round. And then the back is normal. Okay. And the gun is, sorry, I guess I should talk about that. The gun is, there's 200 mil guns on the T-44. The 100 mil that's on the T-54 first prototype is about in between them in terms of the accuracy and the firepower and the gun handling that you get from that. The standard shell in it is 175 pen, and the premium shells are 235 pen. The gun itself, the handling, on this tank I'm using optics, rammer, and a vertical stabilizer. I find that the vertical stabilizer helps a lot for it because there is some dispersion on turret rotation, especially if you are moving. So the vertical stabilizer certainly helps with that, particularly if you're going to be taking any mid-range shots. Alright, so I'm going to be heading north over here, as I typically do in any tank that's not super scouty. I will head over towards the ramp, and then one of the things that we need to find out, right, so the top tiers on both teams are artillery, so you have to keep an eye out for that. And then they have two other lower tier artillery as well. So you want to be able to figure out where their artilleries are, if you can, based upon where shells land and where people get hit. And they typical areas that the artillery will go to will either be like that B0 or the J0 area, right? And so those, depending on where they are, they have very distinct lanes of fire through this middle, and so I want to be able to figure it out. And so, like, if you play this ramp over here that I'm going to play, you have to be wary of that guy back in that northeast corner, because he can shoot into here and you don't want to let him have free shots on you. And so you'll notice that the aim time on the gun is also a little bit long. This is not a super good sniping tank. I believe the accuracy is about 0.38, I want to say. So see where that shell landed? We know the M53, M55 is on the north there, which is fine. We also know that he just fired, so we have a window within which we can shoot. And lol, I was shooting at one tank and managed to pen another, which, okay, I'll take it.
It's a trap!
And our artillery can shoot up where that JT-88 is at as well. The M53, M55 should be reloaded relatively soon. We don't have a whole lot on this side in terms of weight. We have some guys pushing through the south, but they're going to get killed relatively quickly.
It's a trap!
And we kind of presume that at least one of their artillery is going to be on the south. They actually have a lot of guys not on this north as well, but we're sort of bleeding out here a little bit. They've got guys in the middle, but this Bulldog is going to end up getting relatively good shots on. I see this 48 here. I can back up and shoot this 48, but I'm going to get, I would drive into the T-49's line, so I just want to wait. And I know that we're going to get pushed on this side eventually. We have a Black Prince holding back this side, so I need to be in a position to support this guy. I'm hoping the Black Prince actually backs up a little bit because he's in an artillery lane from the south. I'm also watching to see if that Black Prince gets hit by anything. So our T-32 is retreating back into our base. We got an IS-2 just floating about a bit. They still control that middle, but I'm not as concerned. So see how they're starting to push through here? This 110. I need to be careful because I can't push forward because otherwise the M53, M55 is going to shoot me. At that point, our Chi-Ri decides to try to push around the back for some reason. I need our Black Prince to back up in order for me to help him. So the 110 is now pushing around. The Black Prince has backed up, a little bit late. And then I need to be careful here. Again, as I said, I need to get out of here as soon as possible so I don't get hit by that M53, M55. Unfortunately, we weren't able to take the 110. But I need to get across now because we need somebody to anchor that side. So I'm going to move across here.
It's a trap!
And unfortunately, that guy's able to track me. But the T-49 is able to get that 5100 while I'm there. And then so now it's me, T-49 on the side against the 110 that's low health, Comet, and JT-88 somewhere in the back. We don't really know where their... what tank am I missing? No, I'm not missing any. Oh yeah, their T-49 was last seen on the south. So our T-49, see how he's going around the back of this 110? I need to get up here so that I can keep the Comet off of him while he reloads.
It's a trap!
Because the T-49 does have a rather long reload. I know that I can push up here. The reason why I couldn't push up here before is because if I did push up here earlier, then I'd push into a crossfire with him and the 110. But with the 110 down, then I could take him out. Our T-49 got splashed by artillery, so just at least one artillery is on the south, and their T-49 has now come in from that south. And unfortunately, I think he's going to get our T-49. And then he gets away, and now their JT is up behind me. This is less of a concern. That AMX 5100 wreck is in between us, and this is here. So what I want to be able to do here is just give him enough of my hull armor for him to shoot at, but not a whole lot for him to actually hit. I'm relatively artillery safe in my position, as long as he doesn't shift me to have to get further away from the wall, but where I'm at right now I should be able to do fine. And keep in mind that JT-88 has a 203 mil AP rounds, which is what he's shooting basically into my tank. And so we're able to bounce a lot of those rounds simply because the armor on this is very nice. I know there's a tank on the south, I know that, or I'm sorry, an artillery on the south, and I know that that I'm lit. So all I'm doing there, I have no intentions of going out to the south. I just want to bake the shot, essentially. And then now I need to move. I need to do something. I cannot sit here because I cannot remain inactive if their T-49 is being active. I see their Lorraine 5550 coming across this way. Not entirely sure why. Our S-51 is out here. Our S-51 doesn't really need to be out here at this point. But the M5355 is able to take out the 5550. I know that I'm lit, but I know that their 5355 already shot. I know that they have one, the 5355 is in the B0. I know that their other artillery is on the southeast. I do not know where the T-49 is, but again, as I said previously, I can't take the risk of being inactive if their T-49 is being active. So I'm able to light the 5355, who's not looking at me. Given the fact that he's looking off to that southwest, suggests that their T-49 is somewhere in that southwest, and so he's aiming to cover them. So he backs off. So now I'm in a bad situation. I can't really push him very well. Not because of he's a threat, but because the other artillery would be a threat for me to push him. If I try to push in that direction, then I have to go up the ramp, which makes it really easy for the other artillery to hit me. So I need to shoot him from a position where I don't have to drive up the ramp, or I need to just go deal with something else on the map and just leave him be for now. Our artillery can't hit him from that position. I still don't know where the T-49 is. Our IS-2 is cutting through the middle, and he hasn't seen anything yet, though. So I can head towards either through the base or into the other artillery, depending on where their T-49 is at. So I just want to take a peek and make sure that nobody's waiting for me on this corner over here, which doesn't seem to be. The T-49 is now lit, so I know the T-49's location. I know the M5355's location, and I'm 90% certain that the M12 is still in J0, J9. So I can go up here and get a shot on the M5355, which will expose me to the M12. M5355 is not looking in my direction. He was camping the corner in D7, which is fine. Now I just need to avoid the M12 shot. And then it's after the M12, not going to catch the T-49. The IS-2 is turned around. Not too worried about a fast cap because of the IS-2's location. I just need to be sure that I don't get shotgunned by the M12. And so I don't see him on this 0 line. He's probably smart enough to move, so I'm going to take higher ground. That way, if I proxy spot him, I at least know where he's at. All I want to do is be able to spot him from a position where, ideally from a position where I can shoot him, but he can't shoot me. But you know, all things being equal, where neither of us can shoot each other is fine. That's a win for me. And we see that he's running away down the J line, which is okay. I'm not going to be able to get a shot there, unfortunately. But at least it narrows down where he's at. And so we still don't know where the T-49 is at. It doesn't look like he went through the cap area, at least given where the IS-2 is. So again, I don't want to just drive into this M12. It's enough of a win for me to know exactly where he's at and then be able to deal with it from there. So I'm just going to go up the hill and proxy spot him. And we find the T-49.
It's a trap!
And the T-49 armor is strong. So I know the M12 is still locked on that J line. I'm not too concerned about him. All I gotta do is drive back a little bit, and it'll be really difficult for him to come around to shoot me.
It's a trap!
And so I proxy the M12. You see the IS-2 is coming around on the J line. The M12 is looking up at me, so he's not a threat to the IS-2. I was slightly on too high of ground there. The M12 is still looking at me, so the IS-2 is going to be able to get him without a problem. And that allows us to sort of clean up there. And so really the key point there was not making sure, you know, we were in this position right here. Our T-49 was able to get some great shots from there. I just needed to not get in his way. Needed to be careful not to get hit by their artillery, especially once we established that he was up there. You know, a lot of dodging artillery is simply knowing where they are. And then it was just a matter of supporting. You know, I didn't sit back when our T-49 went around to push to the flank of that 110. I didn't sit back. I made sure that I got forward. I could have done a better job of sealing off that Comet. It's not quite a super easy thing to do given the tank matchup, but I could have been able to seal him off from the T-49, which would have saved the T-49 from one shot of health, but probably wouldn't have saved him from their T-49 overall, because he ended up getting derped. And then after that, it's really just clean up and knowing which areas you have firing angles into and which areas you don't. I knew that pushing that M53-55 right there was not going to be a good situation from this area over here. But especially once we figured out that their T-49 had left, it was really easy to get a kill shot on that guy. And then it was just a matter of avoiding the other artillery shell at that point. So overall, it's a tank I enjoy playing. I think it's a pretty fun tank, especially within the tier. In tier 9s, it does okay. Tier 10s, because it has regular matchmaking, it struggles a little bit, and you have to use it as more of a support flanker, so you go with your other mediums as you can. I think it'll be an interesting tank to play in strongholds and company battles as well, because it does have this sort of a hybrid quality to it, which I find fun. Although the health for the given tier is a little bit low. So if we look at the stats, oops, that's not it. So if we look at the stats, overall, I mean, our artillery did a good job. Our M53-55, and it's all you always need your single tier 9s to do decently. Our T-49 also did a good job, although I guess technically the T-49 is also a battle tier 9 tank. So that's good to see. He was able to vulture a lot of shots on people that just weren't paying attention to him, which is really what you want to be able to do with that tank if you're running the 152. And then of course we were able to do a lot of work simply because we were in a reasonably good position and we didn't allow ourselves to get artillery. Shots were okay, 20 of 23 with 18 pens. So I think a couple of those bounces might have been on that JT88. You'll notice that of the 9 shots that we took, we did bounce 5, and at least I want to say at least 3 of those were from the JT88 with its 203 pen gun. So the frontal armor is pretty effective within the tier. Okay, so that's about it. So I hope that was helpful for your decisions on whether you should get the T-54 first prototype or not in 9.7, and thanks for watching.